got way more going on than ASU right now.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, because I'm talking to you.
Well, we'll start recording. Well, actually, I just started recording, but we'll start in 2 more minutes just to give a couple more students to log on. And I tried to, I got a message here. Hi, Miss Earley. I was wondering how long this week. So the meeting, Jessica, goes till 12:30. It might end a little earlier. We don't know, but basically 11 to 12:30 is how far it'll go.
Excuse me for one
second. And let's see, fast moving. Okay, so yeah, I'll share all the videos with you guys, the links later, because for some reason they're not coming through really well. Sorry to cut you off there, Adriana.
No, it's fine.
Let's see. So far, we have 15 students.
I'm scared about this recording thing.
Why? I could edit it out if you want.
Because you know how off the cuff I am. I'm not really good at paying attention to rules. And
well, it's okay if you swear, so that's all right.
I might pass on that. I'll come close. I might have to use some, we might have to use F. You guys know, does anybody know who this guy is that passed away recently? Larry King. Let's see a show of hands. Larry King, does that do anything for you? He's a longtime talk show host at CNN, and he was really good. I see Cecily, we got some yeses here. He was really good at just extracting information from people because he was sort of non-threatening. And in fact, if you were a celebrity and you did something really dumb, you're married, but you wound up in romantic embrace with somebody else's who knows what, and they happen to be a paid person, they would go on Larry King. Politicians would go on Larry King. And once upon a time, he looked at me and he goes, "You're a funny freaking kid." That shows you how old Larry King is. And RIP, because he was a really good guy. Like,
did he say the word
super
freaking?
Phenomenally nice.
Did he say the word freaking or the other word?
He said the other word, Oh, people never swear in newsrooms.
Oh, so
yeah,
I had a Frank Somerville in person for my guest speaker about a year ago, less than a year ago. And
wow.
And he came in between news segments in the rain and finding parking at night. And this was crazy. And so he started out really normal. Everything was fine. And the students loved him and they were fanning out on him and everything. And then I'd say about like 15, 20 minutes, the F-bomb came out like every other word, every other sentence. And I'm like, oh God, that's a lie.
Oh,
but
my goodness.
They were fine. They were fine. Students were cool with it. They're college students. I had a couple high school students in there too. They were taking college classes, but anyway, it was super hysterical, but the kids, everybody loved it though.
I've met Frank before. He's a character.
Yeah.
We'll also talk about, did they tell you that in another era, I was like the Ron Burgundy 5 p.m. anchorman, as well as news director in Santa Barbara?
No.
So I'm reading copy at one point, and then, I would have the ability to hire any one of you. But one of my superstars at the time I walked into a bit of a mess was Rosemary Orozco. Does anybody know who Rosemary is on KTVU? She does the weather.
If I saw her picture, I'd probably recognize her.
She actually does look like Gal Gadot.
Huh.
And is about the same height. And she's super smart and super nice. Have we started already?
You know what? Let's go ahead and start. Did you want to finish your story though?
Well, I'll just tell you something. I think this is so funny. So when I walked into the newsroom, and just think about this, I started talking to her and she was reporting like I do, general news. And she was also dabbling just a little bit in the weather. And we're joking with it. I don't think she'd mind me saying this, but it's like, one, she's a genetic lottery winner, and two, she's taken really good care of herself, and she was going to have children, and she's just adorable. But I told her, why don't you take the meteorology classes at Mississippi State? And Penn State also does it, because she was really curious about weather, and she jumped into it, and the rest is history. She makes a lot of money doing the weather at KTVU in your backyard there.
All because of you.
Well, no, I can only suggest something to somebody. I can't sit there and grind and do the classes at 10:30 at night. And,
the power of suggestion is huge.
Okay, well then I suggest all of you continue to get good grades, listen to your instructor here, and warn Paul from using bad words.
Okay, well, I'd like to introduce to you all of you guys. Thank you, first of all, for being our guest. Our guest today is a CNN reporter. He is a 5-time Emmy Award winner. You should have some Emmys in the background so we could see them. And he was also a director at KEYT in Santa Barbara, and he is a former adjunct journalism professor from USC Annenberg. Please welcome, you guys. Give a nice welcome hand clap to Paul Vercammen. Thank you for being here.
And thank all of you guys for being here. And I want to ask with a show of hands. So a little background here right there. That was my mom's family farm. I'm an anchor baby by way of Belgium, and everybody in my family was and is seemingly in the restaurant business, and they're all very good at it. And a lot of them, frankly, are just hedonists because all they want to do is eat and drink and be merry. That's a cliche, but it's true. So when I told them I wanted to go to journalism school, I was at Santa Barbara City College. So how many of you are hoping to transfer at some point to a 4-year school? Show of hands. Everybody but Charleen. No, I can't see some of you. I'm just messing with you. So I remember walking in and having that conversation with my dad, my big brother. There's a lot of big age gaps in my family because big Catholic family, lots of kids. He went to bat for me because my dad looked at me and he says, journalism, what? Why do you want to go into journalism? I mean, look at how everyone is, we are having success here, and the people like to come to our bar and have drinks and refreshments, and it's a good time, but journalism. I said, yeah, I want to get into journalism. I want to transfer to USC. So they went along with the plan. And obviously right now, I need to advise all of you to make sure you keep your grades up. Are you guys doing that? Show of hands. All right. Because you know how it is when it comes time to transfer. What's the first thing they want to know?
Your grades.
You sure don't want to know your SAT score. They want to know what your grades are.
Yeah.
So that ended up being a good fit for me. And by the way, being a bar owner's son and being able to read people and having watched people get thrown out and so-and-so misbehaving and hitting on the waitress and all these other things are good background for a reporter because you end up studying human nature so much. And you just have to do a quick read on people. For example, the other day, I'm at a vaccine site and most everybody wants to talk to me. They're happy with CNN. Maybe it could be argued that many of them are people of color or they skew liberal, but I know the guy with the Lexus SUV and what looks like a MAGA hat is probably not going to want to talk to me. And so, you have to have a thick skin in this business, and as well as be adult ADD. That really helps too. The thick skin first, the guy clearly is like, yeah, I don't know. I ain't talking to CNN. That's fake news. Back to thick skin. It's just like, at a certain protest, for example, over here on the left is Antifa, over here on the right is your extreme right radicals. And this is, happened in the 4 years that Trump was president. I'll get called narc by the alt left, the Antifa people, and then I'll get called fake news and get all the terrible stares from the radical right. And it's gotten to the point, by the way, with some of these, we have to bring security. Like I was at one hairy situation once where all of a sudden these people called the 3%ers showed up. And while they weren't pointing automatic rifles at my head or anybody's head, they had their fingers on their trigger guards and, their rifles pointed up. And every one of us is like, if one of these people trips or loses their cool or whatever, this is going to be terrible. So anyway, back to the adult ADD thing. Sometimes when you're out at these more serious events, you might get insulted or someone might be bothering you, or you might have a coworker that has a short fuse. And I don't know. I just sometimes just say, oh my goodness, taco truck, or, hey, Green Day's playing at Dodger Stadium this summer. And it sort of gets me through that. A lot of people don't talk about having a life outside journalism, but I think that balance is super, super important. So, okay, fire away. I want to hear something. What are some of the schools you're thinking of transferring to or would like to transfer to?
Unmute yourselves, you guys.
I am waiting just to hear that I'm getting accepted to Chico. Any day now, they're going to send me that notice saying, yes, your transfer has been accepted and you will be at Chico in the fall.
I love Chico. Good for you. Anybody else?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Go ahead, Cecily.
I'm applying to Long Beach.
Another good school.
Long Beach. Yeah.
LBC. You and Snoop.
UCLA or USC.
Outstanding.
Ooh.
So a couple of things here. One thing that you have to love is the junior college route just cuts that cost in half, right? And I also stayed an extra year at JC even after I got accepted. And it was just the right thing for me to do. I don't know if I was ready. I was also saving a little bit of money, living at home, doing all kinds of other things. It wasn't painful to live in Santa Barbara. I got accepted. And I can remember one guy clearly looking at me and saying, "Why are you not leaving now?" But one of the things I did is I was on my school paper, and not enough attention is given to reporting. Do any of you have school newspaper or other reporting experience of that sort of stripe, if you will?
Some of them are doing it now. Their first.
Okay, that's really good, because at some point, you have to learn how to take information, distill it quickly, and put it onto a live report, let's say possibly what we would call a package, or a written report. And at CNN, I do both on TV stuff, help produce for on TV, and we write a lot for CNN.com, which, by the way, gets the most clicks out of any news site in the world. And I know that's like shameless flexing, but it's just true. I know. Well, here comes the fake news people, and they're going to get all, the alt-right people get mad at Paul again. So I had a few colleagues at one point that were all UC Santa Barbara students, and I don't mean to denigrate the UC system, but in their cases, they had complained to me that they had way too many classes that were sort of filling in bubbles on a Scantron test. And all of them went and joined their school newspaper, and that allowed them to do something on the student senate, to report on the protest, to report on the rally, to report on the tuition controversies, et cetera, et cetera. And that really got them in great shape to be better journalists. One of them is an anchor woman named Edie Lambert at KCRA, and another one is also an anchor in Sacramento, Tony Lopez. And I think both of them could have gone to a bigger market or LA or whatever, but they kind of liked that. That was in their wheelhouse. So any questions about that transfer process or anything I can answer for you? Because I'm still on the USC Annenberg Ambassador Program, and I know sort of the profile that they're looking for. And believe me, it does you a world of good to also get that print, or now it's .com experience, because we end up doing both anyway.
So which
No
Okay,
one.
I'll continue.
Silence.
You have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Why does my cousin in the East Bay, who is now a middle-aged male, continue to use the word hella? I'm like, how's my godmother, my aunt? Oh, she's hella good.
It's
The
California.
answer is no.
That's
You
just
think hella's-
California.
Who thinks hella is overused in the East Bay? Let's have a show of hands here. Is it just his generation? Yeah, I think so.
It's a
But
generation.
no, everybody still uses hella here. Like,
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
and we're
okay.
in Northern California.
It's not just
but-
him.
No, it's a California thing. I don't think it's just an East Bay thing. I think,
It's not a SoCal thing, though.
No.
well, no, but SoCal really believes they're their own state. If you are in Southern California and you say, oh, I'm going to go to Northern California, they go Bakersfield.
No, you're wrong. We don't think we're our own state. We think we're our own nation. I mean, do you guys know that LA has like as many people as Portugal or Belgium? It has more people than I'd say, I think Costa Rica, Laos, and I don't know, Sweden combined. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
10,000 people, 10 million people in LA. All right, so back to the show. I transferred to USC. I'm a print journalism major. See that whole thing about me and reporting? And I think I think a lot of the broadcast students are kind of goofballs. And I'm constantly amazed at how I think that they don't get into as much depth as we do, but I was wrong. You can tell the story because the pictures are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. When you write a print article, you might have to describe that the brush fire crested over the ridge and came down into a community of, let's say, 1,000 homes. But when you're in broadcasting, that's kind of self-evident. And so you continue to report on what the details are. And somewhere in there, somebody said to me, you really should consider broadcast journalism. And I listened and I went on some interviews for print jobs. One of them was in Visalia. I really, I'm not in any way taking a shot at Visalia, but I sort of saw my future in print. There was a former student of co-student, what should I say, colleague of mine who was there, and I don't know. I just felt like now's the time to make the transition, so I did, and I made the move to broadcasting. And at one point, I was a cub reporter at KEYT, which is ABC in Santa Barbara. So that's a really common thing. Have you guys heard about that? Like almost like minor league baseball, you start somewhere small.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's really what happens in most instances.
Is it weird that we don't
in
have
Santa
real
Barbara,
life knowledge?
I'm sorry, did someone ask a question?
Yeah, I said it's strange that it's not that we have real life knowledge as much as like in movies. If you've seen that one, it was like an old movie with Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer where she started in some tiny place in Florida, and then
Yep.
at the end of the movie she's working for essentially CNN.
All right, Charlene, how many people out there know who Robert Redford is?
I think they all
I'm really
do.
old.
Okay, all right.
He's so hot.
Oh my goodness, Robert
Can
Redford.
I say that? I have that
It's
movie, by the way.
registering on the hot meter.
I have that movie, so if any of you guys
Okay.
can borrow it.
Great movie. Yeah.
I watched To Die For with Nicole Kidman. She was a anchor woman in New Hampshire or whatever. But anyway, It's not
Yes.
uncommon to start small. And if it makes you feel any better, I mean, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn some things. I thought it was so cool one time. I go to this big old flea market / fundraiser and I get a camel hair coat because I've never thought, I could afford a camel hair coat as a cub reporter making just dirt. That light brown looks so bad on a dude on TV. It's just horrendous, and the other one is herringbone. You know what that is, where the lines are really close together. That absolutely, what the guys in the control room will say, it starts to RF and you get that glowing, weird sort of, did that guy just swallow plutonium? I mean, is he nuclear or radioactive? You learn things about that. You learn techniques to report. You need to learn how to deal with people quickly. I stole this from Monty Python, but anytime I'm out gathering news and somebody is just talking forever and just like chewing my ear off, I call them a time bandit. And I'll let my camera person know, like, hey, we got to get out of here. So-and-so's a time bandit. I mean, we've got a bunch of information to collect and they're basically, trying to tell me the history of the United States. And one day, be careful what you say. I blew it. I was in Alaska covering the primary and or caucus. I can't remember which they call it now, but this lady walks up to me and there's a funny thing in Alaska where Sarah Palin and all these people have Minnesota roots. So they have those upper West accents like that, And she comes up to me and I'm trying to cover this whole thing. It's a great showdown between the Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders head to head. And they're counting the votes right there in this school auditorium. And all these precincts are there. And it's the single biggest precinct in Alaska. And it's just really fascinating to me. And I can see that I've got to go live just every 5 minutes with the latest results are pouring in. And we're going to see some live shots. I mean, I think sometimes people get this impression that we have all these details and charts and all that. And that wasn't it at all. That was just me writing down notes and saying what the results were in these various precincts. So this lady runs up to me and says, there is a big controversy in Eagle River. And I'm telling you right now, my brother is seeing it. It's with the ballots. It's going to be a scandal of huge proportions there, hon.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, Eagle River, just 1 second, please. Let me get ready for this next live shot. I got to grab these numbers. And by the way, fortunately for me, I've been to Alaska 8 times for work. I've been to Eagle River. It's like a CVS and maybe one supermarket, in an all-night liquor store, and one stoplight. So it couldn't have been a big controversy. And that's back to that bar owner's son. Logic would tell you, hey, this can't be that big of a deal. And finally, she kept going, but I'm going to tell you about these ballots and this scandal. And I said, okay, look, give me 15 minutes. I know you're a time bandit. I will talk to you after. I can't believe I called her a time bandit. She didn't even get mad. Maybe she had some self-awareness.
Yeah.
But anyway, you learn a lot of these things in these small markets. You learn to go out and gather these elements. You learn to get a thicker skin. I mean, not everybody's going to love you, back to the fake news and narc by opposite ends of the spectrum. I guess that means you're doing a good job. And when you're in these smaller markets, obviously you decide if and when you want to try to jump to a bigger market. I got a call from Ohio, and I was in Santa Barbara, and I loved it. And I'd moved up to reporter, 11 o'clock anchor. And we also had an extremely good City League softball team. And you're like, what? It was just absolute bliss. And the beach was there, and really good restaurants. And so this woman was very kind to me, and she said, would you like to basically move to Toledo, Ohio? And then they dropped this like it's a big deal, and we are a much bigger market. And I just had to say thank you, but no thank you. And a lot of choices I think that we make really should be based on quality of life, where we are, what our standing is at the station, what our relationships are. I advised somebody about 1.5 years ago. She's from San Diego. She was talking to me about coming to the network, but I think that there was a front runner or some sort of fiance in her sweepstakes. And I said, why don't dynamite that to go off to some job that you might not enjoy as much as working in your backyard at San Diego? And she leads their newscast every night. Her name is Jennifer Kastner. She's got an investigative skill set. What do I sound like, Liam Neeson? But anyway, she's doing extremely well. So I'm not going to be one of those people that says, oh my gosh, every single time you just go to the biggest market possible, because I don't believe that at all. And we are Californians, aren't we? However, you might have to leave the state for your first job, and that's okay. That's a chance for you to learn. You might have to go to Alaska or Louisiana or Missouri. Any questions about that? Okay, so on the flip side, years later, here I'm news director and 5 p.m. anchor, and a lot of these news directors are absolutely just, we'll call them besieged with resume tapes and people bothering them, and you're not supposed to directly call the news director, but I'll be darned if people don't do it. And what are we looking for in those small markets? Well, we're looking for your resume tape, right? Your reel, your link, whatever you want to call it, and you should have some reporting on it. Oh my God, Chloe, I lost you, right? Anyway, no, I'm just messing with you. Anyway, you'll think this is funny, I hope. Start getting from all parts of the country. JJ's got a Southern accent, and he's down there in Athens, Georgia, or wherever, and it's just like unplayable in Santa Barbara. And he's got great sideburns. Like I could never grow sideburns like that, but it's like, I don't know if this guy's going to fly in my backyard. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm as good a storyteller as anybody you could ever want to look at. So, okay, I'll definitely consider you. And then there's the guy in Brooklyn with the Brooklyn accent. And at one point I had a weather opening, and this is great comic relief, but sometimes watching these links is just hilarious. I mean, I have a bad tendency to have the burrito in one hand while I'm trying to eat and watching the links in another. And sometimes I would just exclaim, much to the delight of my employees, it's like, oh my goodness, Brigadoon. We're reenacting Brigadoon, that Scottish play with the kilts, and doing the weather in some rural part of New York. And all I want to know is what the temperature is going to be. So be careful down the road with what you submit for jobs, because you certainly want to show a flair if you have one for telling a great feature story or you've got personality, but you definitely don't want to like put 2 hands on the plunger and blow up your job chance because you're imitating the Scottish set play Brigadoon in Nyack, New York, and you have some outfit on. And I actually told a guy from another state, I'm like, I bet you're a really good meteorologist. I mean, you have the degree and the master's and all this stuff, but every time I look at one of your clips, you had a chef's hat on, and then you used the term choo-choo train, which you were on the train and you had engineer's hat on, and then you had some other funky hat on when you were at the ball game. It's like, can't you just give me 30 seconds of you being a badass meteorologist? The storm is coming. This is what it's going to do. Your life is going to change. Get out your snow shovels. And the guy said, oh, okay, I get it. And by the way, he had somehow circumvented the process and got directly to me in the phone call. So I was kind of astounded that he did that, but he must have BS somebody, somebody who at the clerical level. 7 months later, the guy calls, and I remembered him well. This movie might be a little too old for you, but does anybody know the movie No Country for Old Men? Okay, so he had that haircut with I got a bad hairline, but there's no sense in trying to do that thing, right? Where you comb over and slide the thing down.
Horrible.
And I also said to him, I said, why don't maybe your haircut needs to be updated a little bit. So I don't think you're going to get one of those cattle prodders and try to electrify somebody, which they did in the movie. Anyway, so 7 months later, somehow he got through to me. He had changed his whole act. He stopped wearing these crazy, shirts that he was wearing. He wasn't in the hat anymore. And he changed the No Country for Old Men haircut and didn't look like he was a villainous assassin. And he told me, he said, thank you so much. I got a job in Las Vegas. So anyway, it goes to show you that it is possible to be working in the business and make little adjustments to what you're doing and suddenly seemingly make yourself eligible for more jobs. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. How did you know that you didn't want to stay doing print and doing that type of journalism? How did you know that you wanted to be in front of the camera without a chef's hat or a kilt?
Actually, kind of along the lines of, you're a funny effing kid. More than a couple professors walked up to me and said, we think you might find greater enjoyment getting into broadcasting. A lot's going on. And by the way, I started tracking CNN. I thought this would be a great place for me because it's serious news. And I know one thing that just made me laugh about another era, but my professor at the time he was a big deal. He was the New York Times Saigon bureau chief in the Vietnam era. So he had all these sort of medals pinned to his chest. And he said to me, I don't think you'd want to do exactly what I've done. Print journalism can be awfully lonely with people typing away their stories while sipping upon a adult refreshment. It can be rather lonely. And I thought about that at that time, and it was a very good bit of advice, because print journalists a lot of times do spend their moments on the phone, now Zoom calls, checking sources, checking emails, et cetera, et cetera. But in broadcast journalism, we get to leave the building. No, we don't as much in the pandemic era, but for all the stories I've told you that are tough, I mean, think about the fun I've had, covering the World Series or Kobe Bryant's last game, or just the euphoria some people were feeling, when the restaurant reopened outside for the first time. We get access to a lot of cool things. I covered the opening of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum, and that was a concert for the ages. So sometimes you find yourself in a wonderful position. Can't beat seeing the solar eclipse of a few years ago in Oregon, when it was, a complete eclipse. And there's that weird moment where everything goes black and the animals scurry, and they call it the diamond ring effect, because it looks like a ring and then part of it just sparkles for 8 seconds. That's wildly fun and cool and rewarding. And I worked hard to get that assignment and set all that up, but I don't want you to think it's all doom and gloom and alt-right people and Antifa people calling me names, because that would be a gross mischaracterization. And I do feel, super rewarded. I probably have done 200 live shots about the pandemic, and any information I can get out to people, anything I can tell people that is, important to them, information they can use, etc. Charleen, you can fire your question off at me. Wait, you reported. Oh yeah, Kobe Bryant. Hey, we're gonna try to watch a video, all right? So Kobe Bryant's last game was sort of a unbelievable, fantastical thing that happened. He was hanging them up. And if you guys are NBA fans at all, you know that 60 points is a ridiculous amount of points to score. And somehow he went nuts, scored 60 points. And I got to be in the newsroom at the end, press conference, and I got to fire off a question, which you'll hear. And if the thing starts breaking up, we'll dump out of it. But Charleen,
I'm
take it
working on
away.
it. Hold on.
Oh, she's working on it.
I'm
Okay.
working, hold on.
Well, you'll see a moment in this story early, by the way. I think it's sort of lame. And some people do this, but I don't. In terms of live shots and stand-ups and being on camera and all that, I write down general concepts and probably the statistics or whatever that might be most related to it. I don't like, do you guys, watch the local news? It seems like they're reading a prepared script. I'd rather just Kobe scored 60. The fans were whooping it up. The confetti cascaded down. I might write a note on a serious story like, the COVID numbers for the day. The state had 20,000 cases. There's X amount of hospitalizations, but I don't generally like to write everything down. So in the Kobe story, I grabbed my cameraman, Jordan, by the shirt collar, and I said, look, we're going to have one moment to sort of knock out a stand-up. That's the part we're on camera, right? Where the confetti and all this is cascading down, and there's going to be a lot of energy in the building. So I kind of have the line in my head, and let's just bust tail and get out there and shoot it. Yes.
Can you guys see my screen where I've got it on the screen now? Yes or no? Oops.
No.
No.
No?
I see you in your box.
We see
You
you.
just see me in my box? Okay. Okay, hold on. Guys, got it
Well,
on.
if you Googled, no, anyway.
Oh, how about that? Hold on one second. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see
I'd
that
have to
now.
endure a commercial. Oh, that's that knucklehead. Oh,
So
there it goes.
just so you guys know,
Oh.
the screen, the video may be choppy like a slideshow, but the audio might be okay, sort of. So let's see how it goes. And it's got a buff.
Down like it was an NBA final. Kobe Bryant delivering his chanting fans just what they wanted. A 60-point performance. All game long, they would scream Kobe and MVP, and in the end, it ended with a huge and thunderous bang. Kobe, as the points are mounting quickly, 20 and 30 and 40, fans are whooping it up. What are you and your teammates saying to each other? You can see the smiles.
My teammates were just continuing to encourage me to shoot. It's like reverse. They go from everybody saying pass the ball to shoot the ball. It's like really strange.
Last game of his career is absolutely amazing.
I've grown up watching Kobe for 15 years since I was 7 years old. Thick and thin, no matter what's going on with the Lakers, we've always had Kobe.
I think we can dump out Charleen.
Okay.
All right. So was that Sean that was asking me if I reported his last game? There's your answer. Sean, what did you think of that 60-point performance?
I mean, I watched it live, and that was probably the greatest performance I've ever seen. Kobe was my idol, and the reason why I became a Laker fan. So watching it live was just crazy.
I'm glad you said that because obviously I like basketball and I'm a big Kobe and Laker fan, but you kind of have to separate yourself from basically what's happening so you can report effectively. Like if you're so starstruck, you can barely get out the question. You would end up embarrassing yourself. So I thought over that question I wanted to ask him, and Sean, I don't know if you could hear it and everybody else, but what he said when I said, I could see you smiling and your teammates were obviously telling you something. His response was, is usually they're telling you, you shoot too much. And now they're telling me, shoot. So he was laughing about how fun that was for him to to sort of be in that mode. From a journalist standpoint, as I said, I kind of rehearsed in my head, played through my head what I wanted to say while that confetti was falling. And that was, I think I might've been the only person to actually knock out a stand-up in that moment. And that's where the job sort of gets physical. I'm not going to lie to you, Sean, and everybody else. I sort of had to box some people out to get to that spot. You know, I played a lot of rec league basketball on our Toluca Lakers team here, but you know, I sealed off and I carved out an area, and you have to do that a lot on live shots. I'll show you some protest video in a minute where, you know, it got pretty hairy. And I'm going to tell you, I don't take any chances when it does seem like it's getting a little dicey. We're going to show you a protest in a second. This started as a peaceful protest at a park. This was last October, and you know, there were a lot of social justice protests going on. And for whatever reason, you know, it's like still not known to this day, but the LAPD sealed off an entire intersection. And this is the aftermath of that. And you guys might have seen this, you know, riots, looting, buildings burning. So obviously it transited from a protest to just, I mean, a massive, I'll just call it a riot. Charlene, go ahead and play this for everybody.
Can you guys see it
This
on
is called-
screen?
Yeah.
I'm standing on Fairfax Avenue. This is a major north-south artery in Los Angeles, and you can see over here we have mass arrests. This is past the curfew, and everywhere you look, it seems, there are people in some sort of handcuffs. Plexicuffs, as they're often called. The police moved in here. There had been looting in this area. We can't say if these people have been arrested for looting or disturbing the peace, violating the curfew, just what. We see a lot of young people here. All of this started today in Los Angeles, not far from here, in a park. It was a peaceful protest. And after a while, the protesters went down the street, and there was a confrontation at 3rd and Fairfax. That's where we saw police cars vandalized, damaged, set on fire. That's where we saw police push back, swing batons at protesters, and it devolved into utter chaos. You may know now, not only is a curfew in place, but the National Guard is being called in. You can hear fireworks being shut off in the distance, all because of what happened here in this Fairfax area of Los Angeles when it got completely out of hand, the tension between police and protesters. Reporting from Los Angeles, I'm Paul Vercammen. Now back to you.
So that's actually one of the more calm live shots I did that day. I was right in the middle of it. Rubber bullets were flying. A guy not far from me got shot.
Sorry about that.
And suffered a pretty serious injury. I mean, there'd be a lot of follow-up to all of this, but the point is about reporting. You know, you heard me say, I don't know what all these people have been arrested for, and I'm not going to take a giant leap of faith. But when you saw those people walk into that shattered storefront, that was a shoe store, by the way, and walk out with some boxes, it would be fair to assume that they're looting, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that. I'll let, you know, the viewer make the determination, and I'll let the police decide later if they're going to charge them with looting. But these are sort of, you know, signs of the times, right? I mean, one minute you're covering a peaceful demonstration, and the next minute it's suddenly turned into something else. And you have to have your head on a swivel. When I was in the middle of all that protesting, we did have security guards, but just for safety's sake, as I said, people got hurt near me. I kind of put a burned out cop car between me and the cops and the demonstrators, and I was right between the both of them. And then I had a wall behind me, and that sort of gave me a little bit of a bubble. You know, some bottles were flying, glass was flying, and you couldn't see it on that report, but you know, 9 cars were set on fire, parts of a mall were set on fire, parts of a mall were, you know, shattered, busted up, destroyed. It gets you know, pretty hairy these days, and I don't think it was always that way. I mean, I think we had demonstrations in the 70s and 60s, but you know, now we've ramped it up because of the, you know, divide in America. Any questions about that or covering a protest? Yes. Charleen.
Have you ever been hurt during reporting?
No, not really. I covering a flood once. I think I strained an already jacked up shoulder. Let's see. The funniest thing is I was covering a story in local news on this young man who made a lot of himself after being born on the bad side of the tracks. And I was running to catch up. As I told you, sometimes there's that moment to shoot the stand-up because this train was coming. And I tripped and fell and hit like a sharp rock and a spike. And my hand was cut open and subcutaneous fat was hanging out. So there goes that shoot for the day. And I go to the emergency room or the Medi-Clinic, and the nurse is cleaning me up and hits me with a local painkiller, but something's not feeling right. She's taking this rubber brush. She's scrubbing out my hand. I have a scar on it to this day. She scrubs and she scrubs. She keeps scrubbing. And the other nurse is looking at her like, what are you doing to this guy? And she's scrubbing. And I'm like, I know you gave me that shot, but it feels like something's like coming out of the back of my hand. Oh. And the other nurse grabs those forceps, those plier-like things, and fishes out like a small rock. Oh. The nurse had been grinding the rock into the back of my hand. So yes, that's about the worst of it for me. And if that's the worst I've been hurt over a 3-decade career, pretty good. But the funny thing was she holds up the rock and she looks at the other nurse, I guess like all of us would if one of our friends did something stupid. She goes, Kathy, duh. Well, yeah, Kathy, duh. You just shoved a rock through the back of my hand. Ow.
How long have you been reporting for CNN?
So I'm in my 25th year, and I had a 10-year tour of duty and went back to Santa Barbara in that news director anchorman role. And then I came back in 2007. And, as I said, I'm pretty comfortable because I have to be honest with you. We don't get a bunch of super tabloidy, bubblegum smacking, celebrity type news shoved down our throat. Like, we don't get those assignments. It's fun. I want to talk about the Mars rover landing tomorrow. That's one of the reasons why I'm talking to Arizona State. I mean, I'd rather live in that world than concern myself with celebrity divorce. And, there's some places or some local news stations that are really super, super big on, anybody ever hear this little saying, if it bleeds, it leads?
Yes.
I don't want to live in that world. I'd rather go cover Kobe Bryant's last game. I'd rather cover the Mars rover landing. I'd rather legitimately cover, the lack of vaccines that we're having in California right now and how we need to get more and what they're going to do about the pipeline and what the governor's up to and try to explain the difference between Moderna and Pfizer, and is Johnson & Johnson going to help us? I mean, I'm interested in that. I'm also interested a lot in climate change. I ended up being our de facto brush fire reporter because I've been doing it for so long and I grew up in a fire area and I have a lot of contacts there. So back to being hurt, the only thing that happens to me from time to time is like it happens every
I think you're frozen, Paul. You went frozen.
I thought it was me.
I thought it was just me too.
I totally thought it was me. I was like, damn it, I'm freezing.
I know.
Let's see if I can message him. Maybe he lost connection or something. Paul, come back to us.
Now I'm curious about the Mars rover. I had no idea it was landing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't either. So ask him about that. Yeah. Haley, is that your question?
Huh?
Oh, you have a different question, right?
Yeah, I have a question. It's funny you guys bring up the Mars rover thing because my question was about journalism about space.
Oh, that's perfect. So it looks like we lost him entirely. So he'll hopefully come back on. And
yeah,
he probably lost Wi-Fi.
probably.
Are you guys having a good time so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really good.
Oh,
It's
good.
fun listening.
Cool.
His impressions are spot on.
What's
It was
that?
really interesting about broadcasting.
Yeah, ask him a lot of questions, and you know what? When you raise your hand, just do it physically because I don't think he's noticing the icon hand because I think mine was up for a while. But just kind of go like this. I have a question. Pick me. Do that. Just be ballsy that way. Let's see. Let's see if he's texting.
Professor Early.
Yes.
I have to leave, but I just wanted to see if you could ask him a question when he returns for me.
Post your question in the chat thing, and then I could ask him
Okay, that's perfect.
because I
Thank you so
might
much.
not get it.
Okay, awesome.
And then
Thank
you can
you.
just watch the recording for, finishing off the rest of it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Okay, perfect. He's not texting, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe let me give him a call right now. See what it says.
So as I was
Oh,
saying,
there you go.
There he is.
And you should have said, so that was the whole story right there.
yeah, that would have been awesome.
Just a mess
You
with
lost your
And then
vision.
when Kobe told me to come back and have lunch, he did not. He did not. I just thought I would get your attention by saying that.
We lost your vision.
That'd be great.
Your photo is
So whatever happened with I know, I'm trying to figure out where I went.
okay.
You guys are all laughing at me. This is exactly what my parents do.
You did not say those exact words.
No, they said,
But we do have some questions from a couple of the students that want to ask something. Let me ask you a really quick one that she hasn't written it yet. So okay. Haley, you want to go?
Yeah. So it's funny we bring up the Mars rover landing because I have a question about space journalism. How often do you meet somebody that does journalism for just like space journalism, just like that's all they do?
Uh-oh. Are you frozen again?
Oh,
Paul?
oh no.
Oh no. He's frozen again.
I'm wondering if does this include Space Force as well, Haley? Like, are you interested in also finding out about Space Force and NASA? Is it the combo of the two? It's a real thing. I mean, we really do have a Space Force, so.
More NASA. More NASA, but I wouldn't mind diving into Space Force.
I don't even know what
That's
Space Force is. What is that?
Oh, seriously?
Seriously.
We literally have, so, there's the Air Force and the Navy and the Marine Corps and the Coast Guard. And with the previous administration, they literally started a Space Force. And I'm not lying, this is all legit. When they finally decided instead of like Marines or soldiers, they're actually going to be called Guardians, so that they can be the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Hold on, you guys. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, Paul.
I'm trying to get back in.
Okay. Yeah, because you went frozen again. Is it like a Wi? Is it a Wi-Fi?
And then you froze for me. Can they hear my audio with
Can you guys hear him?
Yeah.
Okay, they can hear you on the phone.
Okay, I'll keep on working on the Zoom. Charleen, why don't you show the fire video, or did you?
No, I didn't. Okay, so I'll show you guys the fire video. Where he was.
We can see Paul making sure that he doesn't get another one of those ash flecks in his eye.
Let's see. Desktop, and let's go to.
Of all things, I couldn't get to a clinic quickly, and I knew my eye needed to be thoroughly washed out. Guess who saved the day for me?
Wow, here we go. I'm gonna play it.
Lens Craft.
Oh, wait, what's it say?
Oh, he said Lens Crafters. Let's see why sharing. Hold on. Okay.
That's crazy.
Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and play.
There, Paul. I'll show you where we're adjusting. Look right behind me. This house is just about to lose its roof. It is completely engulfed in flame. This is the foothill neighborhood of Ventura, one of the leading edges of this widespread fire. It burned so quickly, firefighters struggling to try to stay ahead of it. They have about 1,000 of them on the line. And by the way, this update, they now say 45,000 acres have burned. It started well to the east in Santa Paula, and it burned toward the seaside city of Ventura. What's happening right now, Kate, is firefighters still having to make choices. Some houses like this one, they just have to let burn. In the meantime, they're going off into other neighborhoods and protecting structures. If you look just over to this direction, I can tell you down there, many houses on fire. We saw at least 10. And then there's this house right here, which is surviving. What they're so concerned about, Kate, is you can see behind me these little embers that are floating around. That's how this fire is spreading. Hot burning embers landing on a roof and going from place to place. As we look back over there, many of these are multi-million-dollar homes with a view. Yeah. And as we speak, we're watching more and more of them burn. They have not updated the number of structures burned. They say it's still at 150. They also say that there was a battalion chief who was injured in a vehicle versus pedestrian accident. That chief hit by a vehicle, but he suffered just bumps and bruises, and he's been released. So a very, very pitched battle right now here in the city of Ventura, trying to save homes. But this fire is moving rapidly. You can faintly hear in the distance, perhaps that's a helicopter. They want to get more and more aircraft up above this and drop both water and fire department. But they are really up against it because these winds keep kicking up to about, 50 miles an hour at top gusts, Kate.
Okay, just finished. Are you back live with us or what's, no?
I'm working on it. I just don't know what happened there, but anyway, anybody want to fire off a question or two about reporting in a fire situation?
Anyone? I really want to know, when you're going into areas that are burning so high, are you actually having an escort with like a CHP or a sheriff's department? Because I know that they obviously have to let press into places that are dangerous, but do they also have somebody with you that's, telling you when you have to leave, or it's just, everybody else is running around like crazy?
That's a really good question. It depends on where you are. So I think it's 490 in the California Penal Code that allows all of us reporters to burn ourselves up and the state's not liable. So
yeah,
like they care and they don't. So in California, as you saw, I was right there across the street from that house burning. It's your own judgment. And we were in another area that was really bad just down the street. And I don't want to be the guy that gets himself as well as his camera guy killed because they were stupid enough to be in a bad spot. There's a famous video of a guy in Los Angeles who got up a canyon and their live van burned down. And so we carefully look at where we can set up, what fire patterns are. There's something called a chimney. That means fire is going to burn super quick uphill. You don't ever want to have yourself in your live truck and your people positioned above there, but they will let you go anywhere you want, except as part of that code, if there is any moment where you block or prevent a fire agency, a police agency from conducting their investigation or doing a job, they can seal you off. And the police are much, much more aggressive about setting up that yellow caution tape and keeping you a long, long ways away from an incident. Because, active shooter or explosives or, a murder scene, whatever that might be. So in California, yes, you can get close. In Arizona or Colorado, oh my goodness, you can only be escorted in. And, that's their rule. Now, by the way, on these COVID sites, it's almost always in Los Angeles, a county or city firefighter that's your escort. So it's really important that you are not an a-hole and that you maintain good relationships with all of these agencies because, they'll 86 you from the bar if you're a problem child or worse, a problem adult.
Paul, I have
What do you mean on the COVID sites?
Okay, so let's say on Saturday I go live from Cal State Los Angeles, and I can't just go running around getting video and or shooting live of people getting needles stuck in their arms, people driving up.
Okay.
And we don't want to violate that either by HIPAA rules. But the point is, you have to have somebody who's going to get you to an overlook or somewhere where you can do your live shots from. And you need permission to do that, because that's, in this essence, private property, and that's their show. So under normal circumstances, you can stand on a sidewalk because it's public property and report from anywhere. When it's private property, you need permission from the owners. And I've told more than a few people, it's like, you can't go walking through, somebody's house after a tornado or after a brush fire and start rummaging through their stuff unless they tell you it's cool. So I always ask for permission, but there are people that don't always understand that.
Cool. Hey, Paul, I
you.
have a question from one of the students. She had to bounce. And this is
Okay.
from Cecily Hansen. She asked, have you ever had to change reporting techniques over the past 4 years due to the political climate you were talking about, especially regarding people being skeptical about fake news?
I don't really change my technique, because if you watch me enough, I'm just trying to stay right on reporting what the facts are. I'm not going to say what I think of anybody who's been arrested, or what I think of any protesters, or what I think of anybody throwing a bottle, or what I think of the cops, or what I just don't live in that world. I don't ever want to. So that we have changed a lot about where identifying.
We can't hear you. You're not talking in the mic or something.
Wearing, we all have our stance.
Paul can't. Paul, we can't hear you. Can you? Paul. I think he put me on speaker or something because I can't hear him. Paul.
And we lost him again.
Well, he's still sort of talking. I don't think he can hear me. Paul, I don't think he can hear me at all. And this is good stuff. I'm going to hang up on him and then maybe he'll call back. I just hung up on Paul. That's good.
Technology.
Yeah, it's all on his end. We're doing pretty good. We've got this covered.
Yeah.
So let's see if he calls back. Let me try to call him and see. This is funny. It just is like, I don't know if he put me on speaker or something, because I couldn't, it went into this almost muted sound.
Hey,
Hey, so we couldn't hear you. For some reason, it went into this really weird audio. And,
oh my God.
and now it's back. Now it's fine. So whatever you said for the last 1 minute, we missed.
Okay, you guys heard me say that I do make a judgment as to whether I should wear identifiable CNN clothing.
We didn't hear that, but we heard it.
No, we didn't hear any of that.
But we got it now.
Okay, so nothing's going to change in terms of the way I report, because the way I report is I just tell you what the facts are, and I don't offer any opinion on police officers swinging batons, protesters breaking through a glass window and pulling out shoes. That's not my job. And it actually gets easier once you realize that. Like, oh, you just need to say what is going on. How many acres did the fire burn? How many people were involved in the protest? How many arrests have been made? What do you see? Well, I see those flexi cuffs. Those plastic white cuffs that signal these people have been arrested. Anyway, but back to the protest and changing. It used to be that we would have no problem having our CNN mic flag, on the microphone, that little square of a thing, and no problem wearing our CNN jackets while covering a storm. But we now make choices to not wear identifiable gear, especially when we're going into a protest situation where we know people will be hostile to us, or, a Trump rally or whatever, because we just know that we're going to get shouted at criticized. And by the way, I mean, I don't want to get anybody hurt, myself either. I think I told you I covered this one protest where these guys showed up with assault rifles, and I just don't know. I don't know. Here's a pop quiz. How many people out of 100 do you think are crazy?
All of them?
Yeah, there's no answer, and so
like 75.
There's absolute 5-alarm wingnuts in every crowd, and some of them could be whatever trauma or PTSD, you know, and that's going to be the idiot that pulls the trigger one of these days. You know, I do fear that one day someone's going to just shoot into a crowd of reporters or something when we do have all these hostile people running around. I mean, I was at a protest in Portland and I had nothing on that said CNN, but there's this little box that's hitched to my belt that allows me to hear live. I mean, think of it as kind of a fancy version of an earbud, but it's hardwired. And someone saw, it couldn't have been more than 1/8 of an inch of lettering, the CNN logo. And this guy's like, yeah, you're fake news. And it was just getting kind of hostile. But I know the law, I know the rules. I said, you know what? You put a hand on me, I'm going to have you arrested for assault, but I'm also going to swing back. And he cooled out. But, you know, we do face that. It's unfortunate, but that has changed, especially in the last 4 years. So I think you said Cecily asked that question. That's a spot on question.
Yeah, I've got another question from Haley. She's going to ask you right now after she stops yawning. not from you.
I woke up like an hour ago. Okay.
I'm gonna have to go to a self-esteem workshop with Danville.
Okay, Haley.
So before you froze out, the first time we were talking about like the Mars rover, my question was, how often do you meet somebody who does space journalism, like just about space?
So we have one person in our network that really focuses on it, named Ashley Strickland. But when I go to GBL, yeah, there's a lot of publications dedicated to space. I think that there's a channel that sort of focuses on space. It is a niche, but it is a great way to follow your passions. One thing I would say to all of you is one of the gifts that journalism gives is you could be interested in space and you could be interested in home and garden. And there's probably a magazine, channel, a network, somebody that requires an expertise in that area, and you can follow your passions that way. So I think that was framed really well.
Very cool. Hey, Paul, we're not done yet, but is there a way that my students can reach you after this if they want to email you? Can we give them your CNN email address to reach you?
It's actually better because that gets clogged up with all work stuff.
Okay.
One thing that's a relief about CNN is they don't expect us to be super active on social media. And in fact, we've had, a coworker has gotten in trouble for posting stuff online before it made air. Oh. So I'm super, super low key on social media. The most unclogged place you can see my 7 followers. Follow me on Instagram, and I'll if it's clear that you're a Diablo Valley student, I'll follow you back, and then you can just from time to time DM me, and that'll be fine.
What's your Instagram?
Oh, so I'm at PVC. They call me PVC because it's easy to abbreviate that.
Is that it?
Every rundown of CNN, it's at PVC CNN.
Okay, I just put it in the chat for everybody.
Did you see it?
No, I mean, I just typed it in the chat thing at PBCCNN.
Yep.
Yeah, so everyone has it now.
Great.
Cool. I had a couple more questions for you. How does a journalism student or just any person decipher between true factual news from fake news?
Not always easy. First, the source. You got to look at where certain things are coming from. And I know there's a lot of eyebrow raising about the government, but you should gauge that if the California Department of Fire said that 45,000 acres burned, like we saw on this brush fire, they wouldn't be making it up. Where it gets hairy is these opinion things. And if at all possible, trace where the tweet came from, where the news came from, where the speaker came from, and what their motivation might be. So I can sort of tell right off when someone's regurgitating something that's just like a wives' tale, a folk tale, BS. For a minute, it seemed like, maybe you guys heard this, right after the election, someone started circulating this notion that the election was rigged because people had been signing ballots with Sharpies and they were either going to be discounted or not counted. This was mainly in Arizona. And it's just like, it was just some alt-right group trying to throw the election into question. And a lot of those things have a life of about 15 minutes and then they get imploded or blown up. I mean, first, be careful. Don't try to report anything that is sort of hearsay like that. I heard that someone said the Sharpie ballots were fake and there's, millions of them out there. And then try to use multiple sources. At CNN, honestly, you would think we would make more mistakes, but we have a very thorough vetting process, an approval process called the ROW, which goes through everything we do. I'm glad for these people every day. Most everything needs two-source approval. So that means the CDC said, as well as the state agency said, I'm making this up, of course, but 10,000 doses of the vaccination will be administered in Oakland tomorrow. I mean, that sounds like you're on solid footing, but not somebody's cousin and not somebody's buddy and not somebody reporting that they said that the doses were tainted and there's some sketchy, odd website. Again, that source is really important. Where's it coming from? And why might somebody be skewing it? I would look into. And, I've been, had moments where I'm sure someone's just completely BSing about something. And I just wait. When in doubt, leave it out. Charleen said that to you?
Not yet, but my mom told me that all the time. And she also said, consider the source. That was like always.
Try to get it from two people whenever you can, and two reliable people too. And we talk a lot now about false equivalency. As you know, there are people that think the Earth is flat, but do they deserve, because they have an opposing view, do they deserve as much time on CNN as the people who don't think the Earth is flat? And we have to be very careful with false equivalency because there's so many out there theories right now. And, I frankly don't think we should be covering them. I was sort of against a literal out-of-work actor sort of blocked the entrance to Dodger Stadium with a protest. And it was a lot of anti-vaccine stuff. And I didn't feel like that person deserved very much airtime. And it was also mischaracterized a lot of times. We're clarifying what's come up in other media. It was mischaracterized as shutting down the Dodger Stadium operation. Didn't shut it down, it delayed it. So everybody who was supposed to get their vaccine that day did get it.
Cool. Hey, Paul, I've got a question from one of the students.
Hey, can I put you on hold? I have an urgent call, all right?
Yes, yeah. For sure. I want to know who that urgent call is from. Yeah. Could it be some he's got to go report somewhere? What is he going to report on? I am nosy that way. Dre, I'll ask him your question. when he gets back on.
Thank you. Because every time I unmute, there's a chance that there's a dog barking in the back, or a child will notice that I'm on a Zoom meeting and will go, "Oh, hi." So yeah, better to keep muted now.
Okay, cool. We only have just a few minutes left, really, so we'll wrap it up with this. You guys have been wonderful, like sticking through the whole thing. Thank you. I wish I saw more of your faces, though. But
Wait, we don't get to see people's shoes?
I know. Oh, I forgot. I got to do the shoe cam. I'm going to ask him for a shoe cam and see if he'll do it. He'll be like, what? And Dre, we're going to have to do your shoes too. Because you said you were rocking.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm so sorry about that, but that wasn't my, I had to take care of. Sorry.
That's okay. Hey, before we get into another question, we can't do it now because we don't.
Oh, he's not on Zoom.
Yeah. We were going to ask you to do a shoe cam so we can see what shoes you're wearing.
Oh,
it's a Wendy Williams
okay, so
thing.
I slightly sprained my ankle. Trying to like this. I played a lot of rec league basketball, but I retired. Owing to the fact that I think I was punishing my body. But I've got I got Nike black high top basketball shoes on.
Okay, we're just gonna have to envision that.
I'll try to put a selfie later on Instagram, and you guys can laugh because I got the black socks on.
Okay, so when you do that selfie, I'll capture that photo and I'll use that as the thumbnail for this recording. How's that?
Oh man. No, you won't, Charlene. You're gonna get me in such hot water.
CNN shoe
do you
cam.
think Charlene could throw me under the bus?
All we heard was throw you under the bus, and then it sounded like you did get going under a bus. Hey, I have a question from one of the students here. Are you there?
Keep firing away, you guys. It's your time, not mine.
Okay, and okay, so this is from Dre, and
hey, Dre.
She said, Andrea, and she said, I want to know how he feels about the next generation launching themselves as reporters on social media sites without the same ethics or experience.
Well, if your ethics are messed up, I'm not happy. If you're gonna misreport or mischaracterize or continue to erode the trust in journalism that's been going on, then that's obviously a huge issue. And I think it's important that the journalism schools teach ethics. And I think that it's important that we all adhere to them. And by the way, I mean, I've been on more than a few shoots where people who are, I'll tell you this, I mean, this is an ethical thing. Remember what I told you? You have to get permission to go on somebody's property at a fire. I flat out told some friends at a rival network, it's like, hey, get out of that person's house. Didn't say you could be there. That's part of ethics. Or if I think something's slanted, quite often it's me talking to my bosses saying, look, this report was wrong. There's that boat fire that killed 34 people, if you guys might recall. I had a colossal problem with a report that went like this. A rescuer said that a crew member said that lithium batteries started the fire. Well, it's true that they could have exacerbated the fire, but I had talked to the NTSB person on the ground about possible causes, and it's not like a lithium battery can spontaneously combust. And I vividly recall talking to someone at my network about, we can't make that leap. First off, at CNN, you're not allowed to use hearsay quotation like that. A rescuer said that a crew member said. And so I'm just saying this ethic thing is going on throughout journalism. So when I felt like I wasn't getting my point through, I said, look, they just as easily could have speculated that the fire started with lemurs or by Chex Mix. And then finally I got kind of this laugh like, oh, okay, Paulie, PVC, that's funny. And they understood what I was saying, but I don't want to see but I celebrate.
Oh, shoot. Paul, we can't hear you. Yeah, what's happening? Okay.
You know what's happening? I got these earbuds for Christmas and from CNN, and I don't know why they're so woefully inconsistent. but I'm just sticking the phone in my ear now.
Okay, that we can hear you now.
Did you guys hear what I was saying about welcoming young journalists and needing you guys?
No, we didn't hear that.
Okay. Did you hear what I said about ethics?
Yes.
Yes.
There's colossal breaches in ethics at all levels, and we just got to stop it. We can't have this strange secondhand attribution. Did you hear what I said about the boat fire? And someone reporting that a crew member said that, a rescuer said that a crew member said we can't use attribution like that.
Yeah, we heard that. You were just gone for just a few seconds.
And then I made my stupid joke about Chex Mix and lemurs.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't want anybody doing that, but back to the young journalists, you're not going to have the experience that we have, and we understand that. But we're celebrating, encouraging, cajoling, wanting you to join. We don't want journalism to be destroyed. Someone's got to pick up the torch for me and my older friends, my colleagues, and do this and do it right and want to get the facts right and not misrepresent anything. And we want you guys to flourish. And when I say guys, I mean guys and girls. I'll say that to my kids. I have one of each. But we want everybody to excel, and we'll train you. I don't mind walking up to a young reporter and offering some insights. People did it for me. I fired off a letter back in the day. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but anyway, to somebody I thought was a really good reporter. Watch good reporters and get yourself acquainted with good writing. National Geographic is actually really well written, and those people there are doing a great job of reporting. Sports Illustrated is good. I would avoid, thinking that all reporting is just us cable news networks, because it's not. And I embrace you guys jumping into it, but I think it's important that we get you, all of us, and that's why I like to teach, the proper guidance on how to be an ethical reporter. And as I said, once you kind of concede, understand, I do not want to be that sensational, exaggerating, take risks reporter. You'll be a better reporter, and it will be a weight off your shoulders.
Paul, what do you love about your job?
Variety. I don't think I'd be very good at going into an office at 8 o'clock and the coffee breaks at 11:15. And it's the same thing every day and the routine. I like when I get excited about things such as space or the World Series, or I genuinely feel good when I know I covered this food distribution event and they told me they got extra donations, and I saw the hurt and the hunger in people's eyes who were in line. I feel like I did something good and helped them out. So that's extremely rewarding. I think broadcast journalism, I think all journalism is also sort of very collegial. We've got an absurdly sort of large friend group, and when there's not a pandemic, there's a lot of interesting events. One thing that was super cool for me, I remember getting invited to City Hall and watching pretty much the entire cast of The West Wing read All the President's Men, the book.
Yes.
The unraveling of the Nixon administration. Wait, I didn't hear the comment. What did you say?
Oh, she was just like got excited, and she goes, "Yeah."
It was really cool. And by the way, someone was on about who was it? Oh, Robert Redford. Yeah, I was sitting there talking to Bradley Whitford, and he's like, "Yeah, I got relatives who are journalists. Like, you did a great job of reading, as Woodward and Bernstein and whatnot." And that's obviously just sort of a rare moment that you wouldn't get a window into if you weren't a journalist. And I didn't realize he was such a heartthrob for some people, but I guess he is. And we took a picture, and suddenly I was, popular for half a second. It was a great time. So I do enjoy all those parts of my job. I enjoy my coworkers too. One thing that's not talked about, the movies never capture this well, and that is those moments where you're sitting there in the car with your photographer, and you're just, I don't know, laughing about something or preparing for who knows what. It's like you know each other's families, and you know what's going on, and that bond, lives forever. One of my former photographers just called me today and put me in touch with the right person at Arizona State, who is got the link to the guy that's going to run the mask cam on the rover. How cool is that? I mean, is that the most badass camera in the solar system?
Yes.
So those moments still inspire me. I thought I'd get to a point where, oh man, this is just going to bore me or I'll be jaded, but I still do get excited in a good way. And I obviously don't get excited or try not to, by the way. When I'm doing those live shots, that's when I dial it back. Or when I was covering the Kobe 60 game performance, Sean, you can relate as a basketball fan. I mean, the last thing you would have wanted to hear was me just going, oh my God, Kobe scored 60 points. I can't believe it. I was right there, you. And it was, that's when you're saying to yourself, I love my job, but I better calm down because I'm prone to getting a little too excited.
Hey, so how can I get into broadcast journalism? Not me, I'm asking for a friend, for all my students. How can I get into this? Is there interning? Do I have to take all these classes? Do I have to get a master's? What do I need to do to get your job?
You definitely don't have to get a master's. Some people don't even graduate from college, but you have to get reporting experience. Going to college, I think, is important. Getting that BA is important. It'd be preferred that you go to a journalism school, but you don't have to. You can be a poli-sci major. You can be anything, really, just so long as you start to get that reporting experience somewhere. You don't want to shortchange yourself on your general education. It helps to have a nice, big, broad base of things that you're versed in, whether it's politics or history or a little science. I would strongly suggest that you join a school paper or a school television station if they have one. And then once you graduate, you just start applying. And if you're a print journalist, you're showing your clips. If you're a broadcast journalist, you're showing your reel, if you will. And yes, there are internships, and they're slowly coming back. CNN had done away with their internships for a little bit here, but I'm hearing good news about the next wave of interns. And I'm pretty excited about that.
Not only, right?
I don't know if I don't want to call it fun, but I enjoy getting the interns out with me on a shoot and letting them see what
I think we did. There she is.
Oh, there she is.
All the students froze for a minute. I mean, I was still moving. You're still. Can you guys hear them? You guys, yeah, they can still hear you. I do have one final question from Dre.
Hey, Dre.
Again. Okay, so she wrote, last question. Favorite Dodger? Because she bleeds blue and it's so important.
Oh my gosh, what a loaded question. That's like when the dessert tray comes out and you just have an amazing amount of selections. And owing to my Belgian roots, I'm really vulnerable to a lot of chocolate. Paul said, what do you want, the milk chocolate or the one with the hazelnuts? Anyway, I'm going to go Clayton Kershaw. And just
wow.
The Hall of Famer, because he's won so many games for us, because he's a great person. You may or may not know Clayton Kershaw, among all of his altruistic things. I know this from a few different sources, but one, I think it's well documented. He started an orphanage in Africa, right? Two, he's
really
to poor children's causes and other causes in LA. And then a friend of mine who got into PR, which journalists can do, he was helping with an event, and Justin Turner and Clayton Kershaw had played a night game the day before, and that can last well, past 10:30. And somewhere on a Saturday, they were up at 6 or 7 or 8, giving backpacks filled with pencils and papers and books to school kids. And I thought, what an awesome dude. I mean, you could have easily big timed it, as they would say, and just been, hey, I'm not going, man. I was up too late, but they were out there. So given his performance on the field and what he represents as a great human being. I'm going to go Clayton Kershaw.
That's still a good answer. I would have picked Justin Turner for all the reasons you explained, but Kershaw's still a good answer.
I'm going to agree with you and say that, Justin deserves it. And I also know of instances where, I know one instance where somebody had a cancer foundation, and unfortunately this person passed away, and he and his wife took over the foundation. I mean, just mind-blowing stuff. I've covered a lot of sports over the years, and I know that you folks, your beloved Oakland A's and Giants and all that. The A's are just amazing to me because how they operate on no budget. But I'd have to say, I don't know of a more charitable group of humans in a pro sports team than the Dodgers. I mean, they're just constantly reading to kids, and I mean, they were giving out Dodger dogs and all this food during the worst of the crisis. And I was watching, unemployed maids and their husbands who, let's say also work in a manufacturing plant that had been closed down, grab all this food courtesy of the Dodgers. And it's kind of said a lot about it to me.
Well,
awesome.
We're at one final minute. Paul, I wanted to say thank you for joining us and giving us an hour and a half of your time. And we really appreciate it.
More than happy to do it.
All right, you guys, we're all going to sign off. So thank you.
Okay,
for...
wait.
Oh, wait.
Final question from me.
Okay.
What's Diablo Valley? What's the nickname there?
Well, DVC is what most people call it. And then it's also Butte College too. So I have 2 colleges listening in today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. In fact, Dre's from Butte College, and a lot of the students here are from Butte College. And so they know very well about fires. That's for sure.
Excellent. Well, okay. I was actually talking about the school mascot.
Oh, what's your school mascot? DVC.
It's the Vikings.
The Vikings. And then Butte College.
The Roadrunner?
Yeah, it's the Roadrunner.
The road. That's
Okay.
right. The Roadrunner.
It's been so long.
Go Vikings, go Roadrunners. Talk to y'all later.
Okay. Thank you guys. Bye, y'all. Thank you, Paul.
Bye.
Bye. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining. And now you have an assignment to do. This was only half of it. But for the Butte College students, we're going to have to get together also on Zoom later, either this week or the beginning of next week, but it'll probably be sooner rather than later to get working on our articles and our magazine, which is so exciting. And then DVC, you guys just have a lot of work to do. That's all. All right. Take care, you guys. Nice to see you. Bye.
Bye.